Big Nicky WOLTEMADE continues to prove the haters wrong after scoring again yesterday, despite the consistent, ridiculous comments coming out of Bayern Munich, which were discussed on Sunday Football, Sky Sports, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And despite WOLTEMADE getting a call up to the Germany squad for this international break, he may well not be going. So we'll talk about that in this video as well. Newcastle are set to start receiving compensation for Johan Wissa's injury. It's not massive, but I tell you what, it's decent. So we'll talk about why that is and why it starts from tomorrow in this video. Yes, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday. I have to say, it's always nice to start the weekend, to finish the weekend, start the new week with a win. And for whatever reason, it's starting to get warm again. This weather is a bit crazy at the moment. And as I say, big win against Nottingham Forest yesterday. Bruno getting that little bit of magic to get us 1-0 ahead. And the big man, Nicky WOLTEMADE. Honestly, when that penalty went in, there was a split second of silence because it was in so top corner. It was almost like a moment of, has it gone in? Has it hit the post? Where's it gone? And then it hits the back of the net and the crowd goes wild. And it's brilliant to see him get the goal. It's brilliant to see him matching a Newcastle record. Reported not long after that Nicky WOLTEMADE joins Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand as the only 3 players in Newcastle history to score in their first 3 games at St James's Park, 3 league games at St James's Park. You know what I should have done was looked up how many of them have done it in 4 games. However, it will be a wait to find out anyway because, as I mentioned, we have the international break. Not a mass fan of it. I don't mind international football. I don't mind it for the tournaments, especially in the summer. Beer gardens, pints, sunny weather, stood outside watching the game somewhere. I like all of that. What I don't like is just how quickly the international breaks start to come up. The season's just started, or it feels like it's just started, and already we're in our second international break. We've just won a great midweek game, won at the weekend. Let's continue with the momentum on, and we're not. We are offline, off duty for the next 2 weeks. But in fairness, it looks like WOLTEMADE may well not be heading away with Germany after. Well, it's not injury, it's illness. Reports coming up from Germany and Newcastle to say that that he's caught the flu. What a fantastic timing for him to suddenly catch a bug. He seemed fine yesterday. He must have caught it last night. He must have come on really quickly after the final whistle. Maybe he was in the pub enjoying himself last night, knowing that he had no football this morning. I would assume he is ill, and that he would want to go away with Germany. I mean, did he play 60 minutes in their second? I think so far Germany's qualifiers, did they lose against Slovakia and then they won against Northern Ireland? I think he played in one of those games. So he is getting game time for Germany as a 23-year-old. Being on international duty is good. It's big. It gets the game time. It helps build him up, character and footballing wise. So realistically, there's no big reason why he shouldn't go. However, as a Newcastle fan, I could also argue that he's definitely been dropped in the deep end since joining Newcastle United. He's had some tough games to play. We saw him play a full 90 minutes yesterday, which I think was the first time we've seen him do. He was still sprinting at the end of the game, so it certainly shows that he's coming along in his fitness levels, which is really good for us. However, we saw what happened with Johan Wissa. We are down to 1 striker and an Asula, who in fairness has been a lot better this season for the game time he's had, so I won't write him off. But maybe if he did miss this break, it wouldn't be all bad. And there's a lot of talk on the international break is bad timing because it stops us kind of having that bounce. But I would have to say, on the flip side of that, Eddie Howe clearly works hard with players off the pitch, running patterns, formations. Really, any time Eddie Howe can get, potentially with WOLTEMADE if he doesn't go on international duty, or just thing is, the amount of players who we have on international duty now, the number of players Eddie Howe has to work with over the break is starting to go down. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing for us, the likes of Gordon international break, Bruno, Dan Burn, these players are getting called up. It's a great look for the squad to have all of these internationals. Tonali with Italy. But it was only 3 or 4 years ago where Eddie Howe had the full team and could do a 2-week, rest period, going through this kind of thing off the field. So, yes, but if WOLTEMADE didn't make it, hopefully he feels better with the flu. Hopefully, you let me know down below, is this flu good timing, or do we think he's actually ill? I'm sure the player wants to go, but I can see why, maybe it's not always the worst thing. But what I will say, and as I mentioned, he's been working damn hard, and it's not just to score new goals for Newcastle. Strangely enough, it's to hit back at the haters that strangely Nicky WOLTEMADE seems to have found himself with. Obviously, the constant conversation at the moment is bringing them in. What Newcastle were in for other players. Look, we're in for Sesko, we're in for Cunha, we're in for other players. We'll let Isak go. All of those players that I've just met have not started the season well. Nicky WOLTEMADE, 65 million-ish we paid for the player. He's come in, he's scored virtually in every game he's played, and yet somehow he's still receiving criticism. Anthony Gordon stuck up for him the other day when he called the comments of Bayern Munich chief weird, that he's continually talking about the player. And Jimmy Carragher came out and spoke about this on Sky Sports yesterday, saying that he thought that Karl-Heinz's comments were a joke after Heinz called Newcastle idiots for paying the fee to sign WOLTEMADE. It is extremely strange, and as Anthony Gordon called it, weird. And I really find it fairly uncalled for, especially considering he is part of the biggest club in Germany. This is a young 23-year-old German lad who presumably wants to play, as I mentioned, for Germany over the next 2 weeks. So the comments feel extremely unfair. Let's be honest, if Alexander Isak had scored the number of goals that WOLTEMADE has so far this season, he will be hailed as 135 million well spent on the greatest striker in the world. And then yet somehow, I think in fairness, it seems to just be this bloke who seems to have the problem. And the problem is obviously that they were in for him. For all intensive purposes, I don't think WOLTEMADE necessarily turned them down. They just didn't want to meet the price tag of Stuttgart, which Newcastle did. And that's why we signed the player. So this guy is extremely, burnt over it and is producing these really strange comments on WOLTEMADE. So let me know your thoughts on that one down below. Part of me thinks, is it fueling the fire, And WOLTEMADE is firing back. He's putting the ball in the back of the net. He's putting these comments to shame. And, if this is something that is fueling him, then let him, then fine. Great. I'm glad WOLTEMADE is making a point of it and showing this guy that he can, shut his mouth and get lost. However, I don't know. I don't think he needs it. He's doing his post-match interviews. He's talking about how he's loving playing for Newcastle. He's loving the chance that the fans have created for him that sung around St. James's Park yesterday. I don't think he needs this outside noise. He seems to be a nice, as far as Eddie Howe goes with his selection of players, he seems to go for the ones that seem like decent blokes off the field as well. And he seems like one as well. So I hope he continues. Fantastic penalty. Great to get the goal. I hope he gets over his flu. And as I've mentioned, Johan WISSA, currently out injured. We really need WOLTEMADE to keep scoring, keeping up this good form. And then hopefully when WISSA comes back, he can start to help out. But somewhat of a silver lining or something that's positive in the world of WISSA is that Newcastle are set to start receiving compensation for his injury. That's right. This was reported the other day, but it is set to be started from tomorrow, and it is called the Club Protection Programme. And essentially, and I am looking at my notes over on the left-hand side because I've not fully revised this, but it is essentially an insurance scheme that covers players that get injured on international duty. As I've mentioned from the start, Johan WISSA was, spent a fair whack on this guy. And, that 55 million, that's not part of the compensation. I'll continue to tell you what it is and then we'll talk about it. So essentially from tomorrow, we will start to have Johan WISSA's wages covered through this insurance scheme. The max amount of cover per week is 126 grand. So you would assume that Johan Wissa is on less than that. So somewhat of a silver lining. The reports were that Wissa was set to be fit for Brighton. That seems to have been pushed back now, and we could be looking at that a little bit longer. Looks like Hall, I'm hoping he might be back for Brighton. Livermento's looking like a little bit longer. We seem to have a bit of a deeper squad, you know. Malik Chow coming in looked great. Botman, when he was fit, was tremendous yesterday. Alanga didn't have the greatest game, but he played great in the midweek. Gordon wasn't as great this weekend, but was great in the midweek. We have options. We have players who can score. We have players who can defend. There is some promise around that. But undoubtedly, Wissa is a man we would rather have sooner than later. If he could be fit in time for Brighton in 2 weeks, that would be great. That was the initial hope. But comments would suggest that we will be waiting a little bit longer than that. And should he be back kind of end of October, start of November, can we get a good few months out of him before he goes off on international break with AFCON? But as I've mentioned, you know, covering of up to 126 grand a week, you know, close to 500 grand saved for Newcastle this October should Wissa not play. It will stop the day he makes his debut. And the reason we've had to wait this long is because it only covers injuries over 28 days. So it basically, as of tomorrow, marks 28 days since Wissa got injured with, is that right? Was it as long as 28 days ago? About that. So essentially Newcastle are starting to get all of Wissa's wages covered. So yes, there is something of a silver lining in there. Obviously the hope was that he could come in, he would be the man to start, big boom, hit the ground running. He could play far more like Isak. There wouldn't really be as much change to the way Newcastle flow. We haven't had that. Nick WOLTEMADE's come in. You know, he had a quiet first half yesterday. I'm happy that he scored. It was a penalty. It took that Bruno magic to put the ball in the back of the net and really kick us off. But you could argue that WOLTEMADE could have had 2 or 3. You know, he hit the crossbar at one point. He smacked it off the goalie at point blank range at one point. You know, on a different day with a deeper breath, as he kicks the ball, maybe he could have had 2 or 3. So yes, I'm very happy with the state of play right now. I think Newcastle are having to slightly adjust how we play. It's not quite as simple as Alanga run to the byline and slide it across the front of goal, you know, as Murphy would have done. WOLTEMADE is making deeper, later runs. We're trying to counter that with maybe Gordon runs in the box while he's arriving late. So there is work to be done there. Maybe if he doesn't go on international duty, this is the 2 weeks that we can continue to work on that with the players who haven't had a call-up. But long may the WOLTEMADE run continue. Can he get another goal at home and continue to break that record? I would love it if he could. But undeniably, we are looking forward to seeing Wissa back as well. So thoughts and comments down below. Are you fully confident? Are you very happy for WOLTEMADE to continue to play the way he is? Or are you kind of itching now to see Wissa come back and at the very least add a different flavour to what we're creating here? You know, Wissa number 9, WOLTEMADE number 10 in behind. You know, do we need, like, Joe Linton started the game well yesterday, but his effectiveness and use was kind of lost as the game went on. As we started to build up and have more and more of the ball, you know, let Bruno and Tonali run the midfield, stick WOLTEMADE in number 10, stick Wissa in at number 9, and we've really tried to create something a little bit different there. Or, you are not bothered. WOLTEMADE is the man. We're in no rush for Wissa. WOLTEMADE will continue to lead the line and keep scoring. Big up to him for proving the ridiculous, as I've said, idiotic reported Gordon calling it weird comments coming out about him. I hope they stop, just unnecessary. Hope he feels better from his flu. And yeah, Wissa might be a little bit of a way off now, but at least some of that cost is getting covered. The 15.5 million was spent, however. He will have to come in and make it worth it himself when he starts playing for us and getting the goals to make that pay. Right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, hope you have enjoyed this video. The Monday, it's a nice Monday. It's a nice Monday to smile when Newcastle win at the weekend. As I mentioned, there is no football over the next 2 weeks for Newcastle, but as always, there's plenty to talk about. So should we drop a like and subscribe. If you have the new hype button, if you're watching on your phone, give it a click. Let other Newcastle fans know that we are getting compensation for Wissa. Let's promote this video that little bit more. It's a new thing, so if you want to have a look, click hype. Help me out. Thank you for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you later.